You ready to belly flip in a whiskey sip?
Forgot my hat.
You ready to belly flip in a whiskey sip? You are listening to the Bourbon and Blades podcast. This is episode 3. We don't have a title yet.
You'll see it down below.
You'll see it down below. I'm Wolfman Walsh. This is the Infinite Enzo, as always. We've got Cameron on the end, and here's our special guest this evening. We have Forged and Fire Season 6 champion, local Knoxville native, John Phillips.
That's right. Yeah, you basically did the intro for me. That was fantastic. I was just going to add, guys, I've been fortunate enough to be friends with these two guys for a while now, and I just really appreciate what y'all do as artisans, and that's kind of the word, when I think about both of y'all, that's the word that comes to mind, because both of y'all have, as long as I've known y'all, have always been making things that kind of strike this balance between artistry and utility, and on top of that, too, we've been kind of lucky that everybody we've had on so far has been like native to East Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's pretty cool to just kind of be able to share how many native Tennesseans are doing cool stuff. So now that we got that out of the way, why don't we, before we get into y'all's background stuff, why don't we see what y'all had in the pockets today? Not necessarily everything right now, but what were you carrying just with you today?
In my pockets.
You're first. Yeah, Cameron, you're up first, man.
Well, just because it was coming here, I brought a pen or a pencil that I made. It's the first thing I ever made on a lathe.
Oh, nice.
So I got that.
What type of wood is that?
This is rosewood. If I were to make another pen, I probably wouldn't use rosewood, or I would treat it a little differently because it has cracked. But it was fun. It was a fun first project.
Oh, man, that's pretty sweet.
Some good contours out of that.
How long ago did you make that?
How old am I? A little over a decade.
Dadgum, man, that's beautiful.
So I got that. What else do I have in these pockets? I have this Civivi Phillips Forged design. This is the Civivi Odium.
Yes,
it's based on the Phillips Forged
Stinger?
No, it's this is a different one actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
not the mini Archbishop.
The mini Archbishop.
Yeah,
and the price points are there's about $30 difference, I think. But after watching way too many videos, I was like, I'm gonna get the cheaper one because it looks like it has better contours. It also has this G10, which is really nice, and just in general. And then I put, since we have a fiber laser at work, I like to mess around with that, and I put swallow-tailed kites on one side because my last name is Kite, and like a D20 on the other side. So
I had a look at that. That's awesome.
Really get to do some
I love the
D20.
I'm going to bring that. I was going to bring up a little bit of tabletop gaming later, if that's all right with you.
What else I got in these pockets?
John, has he talked to you into any of that yet?
Got some sandpaper.
I'm interested.
A couple of driver bits.
You want to see that?
I've got an old coin that I carry around a lot of the time. That was my grandfather's.
That's heavier.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
That's from before pocket dumps were cool.
Right. Yeah.
I got a bicentennial dollar. What else? A pair of children's socks, apparently. This little flashlight. This is a little Husky flashlight that I carry around. It runs off one AAA battery.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Very small.
I used to
wonderful. You can stick it in your mouth to look at stuff, and
that's always really a key determining factor with a light. Can I just stick it in my mouth when I'm walking around outside holding stuff?
Mine is, can it run off of one fucking battery? Mm-hmm. That's all.
So does it have to be like a standard sort of AAA or AA?
One normal battery.
One normal battery. Okay. But let me before I got to ask you, do you know any of the significance behind that coin? Because that's a really
my grandfather. I mean, I named my son after this man, but I never actually got to meet him. Mm-hmm. His name was Garrett Baird, and I don't know anything about this coin except it says "good luck" on one side, and on the other side it has information about him. So I'm not really sure.
Man,
and
It's really cool.
this had to be made in a day long before there were CNCs or fiber lasers or anything. So
Right.
it's somebody built a press to press his name and information in there.
That's
So I
fantastic.
think that one's really cool, and I carry it around a lot of the time. And then I've got this minimalist wallet that I got at a place called Jolly Boys in Botswana.
He has something against the minimalist wallets. He's got a chip on
I
his
have nothing
shoulder.
against it. I can't
Look,
do it.
I have some
Yeah, I've
lower back
tried.
problems, and this helped him out. I'm not sitting in a car all day on one side of my
The
body.
George Costanza wallet.
That's exactly what I had, because it was like my purse, and I would just dump crap in it. I'd be like, what is this, 7 years old? So anyway, I've got that. It was given to me by a leather worker in Botswana, like I said, at a place called Jolly Boys, like this really cool hostel that we went to when we were there.
Nice.
Just, it was really cool.
Yeah, printing those photos was it was fun for me, getting to see that trip. That was just, I was a little jealous afterwards. Like, man, that trip looks really memorable. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of photos of animals and they printed them for us, so it was really wonderful. Yeah, I've got this tiny sanding disc of, I think, 4,000 grit
That stuff is
sandpaper. This stuff is pretty amazing. You can get it at Woodcraft.
4,000.
I don't know why I have just this one in
Yeah.
my pocket. It goes up to like
12,000.
12,000.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's out
Like
of
it's
my...
like a
Yeah.
smooth piece of notebook paper at that point.
Wow.
But it'll it's really hot to show like mirrored knives, and you'll notice most of the time when people are making their own and they show the mirror, they do it outside,
Yeah.
because if you do it inside, you see all the scratches that you don't get out unless you go back down and up and down and up
I
and down
see,
and up,
I
and it's
see.
endless. And especially with stainless steel, like you run into things where like the sandpaper is actually plowing, where it's making a divot instead of removing material because it's softer, and there's just all sorts of things.
See, that's what I
So-
like about this podcast.
I know.
I learned something
I'm
every
telling you,
time.
man.
Yeah.
Between that and that coin, I'm already like...
We could
all right.
talk all night about sandpaper between the two of us.
Yeah, John
Abrasives
found the
are-
best
Stay tuned for part
sandpaper.
2, sandpaper.
Yeah.
Abrasives are my pastime.
Maybe you should just start a podcast about abrasives. That might, draw in a crowd. You never
It
know.
would. The epic nerds.
Yeah, man. Well, John, what do you got, man?
Well, let's see here.
Pass that back down this.
Yes,
in my
absolutely.
pockets.
Hey, Cameron, here's that. Savivio. Thank you.
First of all, I got this
I think it's
Tuck
awesome.
XL
Oh, cool.
by Tactical Keychains.
Yeah,
And it's just a box cutter, but it uses a magnetic slide,
that's
so
awesome.
you can't accidentally deploy it in your pocket.
Huh.
And it's a pretty nice little piece, because if you're ever traveling, say you go to the airport, you can just ditch the
The
blade.
blade.
Yeah.
That's
And
perfect.
you can find another blade pretty easy. And it's just so minimal, super lightweight.
I might have to get one of these for my dad, because he is like the world's worst about walking to the airport with his knife. We were going to we went on this big camping trip in Montana, and he had a big cold steel in his check bag, and he brought it intentionally because like, I'm camping, I want a big knife. So then we're leaving, and we're walking up, like right up to the airport, and he goes through security, and it keeps beeping. And he keeps going through, and he's like, I don't know what. And I see this giant honking cold steel pocket clip in his pocket. I'm like, dude,
Bro.
you are killing me. So then he had to run because he's like, I'm not throwing this knife away. So they let him go back to the FedEx desk and ship it back. So something like this, that is a game changer. I'm gonna get him something like this. Where did you pick this up?
Tacticalkeychains.com.
That's dope. Yeah, I gotta
Yeah, it's
get
called
him
the
that.
Tuck XL. And that's basically the only product they make, I think.
I'm getting him this, man.
it's-
I'm gonna get him this for his birthday.
Yeah,
It's
they're
perfect.
cool. They
Bill, don't watch this episode.
Yeah,
they do small runs, so you gotta hop on there and get them
Right.
while you can.
right.
But it's a nice little knife.
That's very cool. So is that like an aluminum?
Yeah, that's all anodized aluminum.
Really
And
cool.
then there's some magnets built inside that keep the blade nice and stable. And then the pocket clip is extra,
God, that's awesome.
which
Here, check that out.
it's almost too minimal for me without the pocket clip.
Yeah, I can see
And-
that.
And so I can
Oh, okay, I
at
get
least
it.
drop it in my pocket, and with the clip on it, it's easier for me to find.
Right. Yeah.
Or I can hook it on.
I like something that size because it can go in the watch pocket in your pants.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right,
Yeah,
this
if you
thing's
took,
That's
smarter
why I
than
carry
me.
this tiny one.
you got
Yes,
push
yeah.
down.
you got to push down. But yeah, if you took the clip off, then it would be a pretty nice like fifth pocket kind of deal. But yeah, for me, I think I'm always a kind of a, unless it's a slip joint. That's like the only time I don't want to clip on it. But that's awesome, man. Really cool.
I like that one. And then this is the other one I like to carry, the Heretic. This is the Manticore out the front.
Nice.
It's just a classy little knife. A lot of times, I'm in a position where I need one hand to deploy the knife, and I can't always flip it. So out the front's a nice one. And this one's super lightweight too.
Let me ask you and this is something I've always been curious about because I have an OTF as well, but I don't carry it super often. And when I do carry it, God, the spring on this is really good. I have a Microtech and like the spring. You have a Microtech too.
Yeah, I got a couple of them.
So the spring on mine is like so stiff
Yeah.
that when I go to close it, it's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
This is really nice. But no, the question I'm getting at, so with an OTF, like when you're doing like work with this, with OTFs being, I guess, like a little more fiddly than like a normal knife, is that ever a factor? Or
Not really. No. At least with this one, I haven't had any issues at all,
Nice.
and I've been pretty hard on it.
That's sweet. That's good to know because I'm always like afraid to put my Microtech through any paces, which is stupid because it's a knife, it's a tool,
Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, I like these. This is like I think the second Heretic I've seen, and I really dig these knives. Nice. Good. Here, did you want to see that?
Yeah, yeah.
What else I got? Gotta have my iPod, my AirPods.
Nice.
Let's see. I don't know where my wallet is. So this is a fun thing. This is called a stash light.
Okay. Okay.
So on one end,
Yeah.
you got a little lighter,
Oh, nice.
and then on the other end, you can store your glaucoma medication, and it stays nice and dry. It's got it's got an O-ring on it. Got
Nice.
a lighter. Very inconspicuous.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty sweet.
So
That's the way to do it. That's nice.
all in one.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got a cool old marble here.
Oh, nice.
This is an old marble from an antique store in Florida.
Oh, cool.
And good old iPhone, some keys. Keep it pretty simple.
Yeah. No, that's a good carry, man. Well, I guess you and I should rush through ours pretty quick because we're not the main focus of the show. I have. Oh, I'm gonna interject. Did y'all get anything knife related for Christmas before I start?
No.
No, Cameron, no.
No.
Man, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I got this for Christmas.
Nice.
Gift from my wife.
Little spider cow?
Yeah, Spyderco Gail Bradley 2. And it came with JG10, but I typically, your knife is the only exception to this rule. I'm not a fan of jade. The way that, we'll get to that, but the way that handle is perfect. The way that it comes on production knives, I think I told you this, I don't really like it. So I dyed it to kind of this tobacco color.
Oh, so it's dyed.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
dyed with Rit dye with diamond.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
And then
I didn't know you could dye G10.
yeah, you can dye it.
All right.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
awesome to
it's
know.
not hard to do either. And if you want to get really into the weeds with it, you can mix formulas and get like exactly what you want.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
I guess we're gonna be playing with some of that.
Yeah, something to
Sweet.
something
Getting
to look
exactly
into,
what
for
we
sure.
want has been a trouble.
Yeah, I know that's probably a Pandora's box to open up, but hey,
Yeah, that's what we do.
yeah. Acid washed on the pocket clip and the liners as well, but that was the main one.
That comes with the acid wash on those?
No,
or
I did that myself. Just because I don't know. With that knife, the darker earth tones, I kind of felt like it needed it. A case Sal Belly Sal Belly Stockman. Thank you. I'm not going to go through all those blades. That's got giraffe bone on it.
Nice. How old is that?
That is 2019, I think.
Okay.
It's not super old. And then I got to shout old Joe out though. I'll show that off inside the sheath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our buddy Joe who made that pocket slip. Really beautiful work. But I keep my GEC Remington Granddaddy Barlow in there, which is getting a serious amount of patina on it. But that's a fun one. And that's, other than that, I got a flashlight, but it's not exciting. Multi-tool and all that stuff. That's pretty much all the cool stuff, I think. Walsh, what do you got, man?
You've only got 3 knives on you today.
Oh, wait, did I win? I won. All right, that's a first. All right.
You got more than me?
Yeah, main carry today was the, would you pass that down, the
Down the line there.
Kaiser Urban Bowie that we
Nice.
modded.
That's a great knife.
It's not what that
So
looked
he
like.
did a 2-tone kind of dodge
Nice.
job on
So
that.
did you do the spine and everything on it as well?
Yep.
Cool.
I did the dyeing, he did the spine, and then we tag teamed that brass wash on the blade. If you open it up, you'll see that we acid and brass washed it.
Okay. So did you just add brass to ferric chloride?
Well, so what we we did the ferric chloride dip, and then when we did the stone washing, instead of using stones, or ceramic, we used brass cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
The problem though with that is that, which this one we did for a really long time,
Yeah.
so I think it'll last a good bit longer. You can do it for a short period, and it'll have a pretty strong finish, but it'll wear off as you cut stuff, like much quicker than you would think.
Yeah.
The first one we did like 2 minutes apiece.
Yeah.
Agitating it, and it lasted a couple months. This one we did like 5 minutes apiece minimum, so 10 minutes, and it's held.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's not food safe.
Yeah.
I can't
But-
make out the steel on that. What is that?
154.
Of course,
You should
your
try
favorite.
it sometime. Put a splash of ferric in
With
with
it?
it.
Oh, yeah?
When you just shake the brass, and that'll actually attack the brass and break it down. And,
Really?
And actually create a chemical reaction where the brass will actually bite on electronically to the steel.
I'm telling you, we
You're
learned
taking
stuff.
notes.
I'm taking mental
Okay,
notes.
good.
Got it. So, but,
yeah, love that knife.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it came in a light tan. So then I dyed it. I mixed
Wow.
2 different colors to make the brown on the one side,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's daffodil yellow on the other side. So
If you want it to be food safe, you can also find a lead-free brass and lead-free bronzes.
I hadn't thought about that either.
well, it was what
don't-
we had on demand, and I had about 1,000 ammo casings.
Everything that we do
Yeah.
when we mod
Yeah,
stuff is
plenty of
very
lead.
like.
What's in the garage?
What do you got? Yeah.
What do we got?
Yeah, that's how we all start.
So this
We
was
just have a big garage at this point.
yeah. I couldn't decide which one to put in the 5th pocket, so I had
dude,
this
I love
one. I had
this
the
knife.
Rough Rider Sabak.
Cool.
There's a cool story behind this one. You want to get into that, or should we save that for another?
That's
video?
for another.
Okay,
That's for another
I'll
video.
Save that.
Uh,
Long story short, this is a really, really old pattern that Rough Rider kind of brought back from the dead.
Yeah, we got to meet the designer, and we learned a lot of history about it. So,
we're gonna have a video on that at some point.
and it's a Star Wars reference. So, so I had that one and the new Capital Intern spade.
Nice.
Nice.
I've only had that one a couple of days now, so I've been carrying it as much as I can.
Yeah, that's nice, man. That's a
But
sweet knife.
main
believe-
carry because it's winter time is that neck knife. I have my Condor Carlitos 1075 steel there. So I've had that one a couple of years now. I love carrying that thing. There's no profile, no weight to it,
There we go.
but even though you're not supposed to, we've batoned with it. And we've beat that thing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, 1075 is super tough steel, and especially with that spine thickness, if it's got a good heat treatment on it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can get away with a lot.
So we did a comparison between it and the Ezzy Azula, or the Ezzy Azula 2.
Well, it's 1095.
Yeah, it's 2 different steels, but
I honestly, there's probably not a huge difference between 75 and 95. Yeah.
There is and there isn't.
Okay.
But for bite purposes, that thing bit so well into the log when we were batoning through wood. But once you got pretty deep into it, just the kind of the lack of steel, it wouldn't go through as.
You mean like lengthwise or like?
Yeah, well, just the heft of it. And then
Yeah.
with the Zula 2, it's a little bit thicker on the spine. It didn't bite as quickly to go through the wood, but once it got through the wood, it took one whack and
Right.
it dropped all the way through it. So, but no, that is my favorite neck knife.
You know what I like about Condor though? They have that cold steel kind of vibe where they're just like, we're gonna just do like everything.
Everything,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like here's a Ithacan spear.
Yeah.
Like, just crazy stuff.
Here's a Persian sword.
Yeah.
No. My Seize the Night coin.
Oh, nice.
This is one I was carrying today.
Very cool. Who made that? Do you know?
Did I get that one from 511? Or no, that one is from I can't say. It's from Zulu Foxtrot. I think who made that one.
Okay. Nice. Oh, the other one. See, actually, that reminds me.
And then my not so Cameron. My not so yeah. It's I can't function without it in my pocket. I feel like I'm leaning.
You're missing.
I'm missing.
That looks like a checkbook.
It'll hold a check. It's my outlook. It'll hold a check. So
That's a non-fold bill fold. That is a bill flat.
I forgot to mention, I got a new one though. This came with the Spyderco. It's fun.
okay, I know why. Yeah.
Blade HQ stuff there.
Is that Barbie colors?
Spent-
It really
Donut.
is.
Is that the donut?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
donut coin.
Yeah,
or whatever.
they had a bunch of cool stickers and stuff at Blade Show.
Yeah.
Donut knives.
We're hoping maybe this year we can.
hilarious.
We've never been able to go.
Y'all need to
I
go.
know.
We're hoping to get a booth down there this year.
Hell
We're-
yes! If y'all are getting a booth, we gotta
gotta
go. Yeah. Well, the other thing that's neat, you know.
I have no plans this
Run
year.
a quick episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
We'll film for you.
Yeah, whatever you want. Absolutely. But it's like the other thing that's cool though is like through social media and stuff, we've got friends in Sweden and Germany, and our German buddies like, hey, I'm going this year. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like shit.
Yeah, that's
see
the
our
only
friends.
reason why I go at this point.
Yeah.
You know, like the knives are awesome, but really going to meet the people from Europe and from the West Coast and from wherever.
Have you had folks from out of the country buying your stuff yet?
Oh, yeah.
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 Nice. That's fantastic. Is shipping one of your high end stuff? Is that like?
It's nerve wracking.
I can imagine, man.
Yeah, and I kind of have backed off of international shipping in the past couple of years just because it's such a pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like Domestil buys some knives from us.
Okay.
So, you know, for their like personal collections. So,
Nice.
you know, I'll ship stuff to them.
That's cool.
But, you know, I've sent stuff to Indonesia, to Perth, Australia, which is like as far away as possible from
Wow.
us.
Yeah, I can imagine. Holy cow. Yeah, that's a trip. Well, on that note, I'd like to kind of get into kind of how you guys entered into the knife world, whether it was like a first knife that you were given as a gift or you know, if you got it yourself or what happened there. So Cameron, do you want to maybe elaborate on that, how it worked out for you?
How I got into the knife world? Well, I've always liked knives, and I thought it would be interesting to make knives for a long time. And then I worked with John in a number of different shops doing metal work and forge work and fabrication and like woodwork, and just kind of we crossed paths a lot with a lot of different studios here in town. And then John started leaning really heavily into the knife making. And at some point we were out and he was teaching a class at Aramont. He said, do you want to come be my assistant? And I was like, I've never made a knife, so I don't know how that's going to work out. And he said, well, that's fine. Just come anyway. Make sure nobody chops off their hand. And I made I made a kitchen knife, and then I made this little like fixed blade. And I kind of signed on at that point.
Nice. So
And,
I didn't
we
really...
started working when John was still trying to make like 15 knives a month,
Wow.
Maybe.
maybe, sometimes less, and just got really into that, and it sort of took off from there.
Yeah, it was really right before COVID
Yeah,
was when Cameron started working with me in 2019.
So this would have been after Forged and Fire.
No, it was actually before Forged and Fire.
before
damn,
Forged and
okay.
Fire.
Wow.
And then, like, John was making midnight phone calls, and being like, "Hey, they asked how to do something.
Yeah.
Can you give me a rundown real quick and make sure I'm not gonna fuck this up?"
Yeah, because there was
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
that they were asking me about that was like, yeah, I think I know how to do that.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Cameron
He
was
did,
like,
but it's nice to have somebody.
nice to have somebody bounce
Yeah,
stuff off
absolutely.
of.
You know, while we're on that topic, just one question I was curious about, and I say this as somebody that, you know, is in a small business, and I work very closely with my dad, who, do y'all remember the show American Chopper? Y'all know how, what's their names? Senior and Junior. What's
Polly.
Polly, thank you.
Yeah.
Polly Senior and Polly Junior would they'd get into these blowout arguments and they'd be throwing mufflers and shit at each other. That's kind of the dynamic me and my dad have, except that most of the time we get along great, except for those moments where we're throwing cameras at each other. But so what was, you guys seem like y'all probably just started off on a good foot to begin with. Y'all probably always had a pretty positive experience working together.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, we don't really.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I think if ever we've had a disagreement, it like stewed for a day and then was gone.
That's-
you know?
that's- yeah.
And they're usually
it
about the most inconsequential things.
Yeah,
Like-
it has
like-
nothing to do with our work.
Like one day, I got really into theories about the Anna Nicole Smith murder, and Cameron seemed to disagree with my forensic evidence, and we got pretty heated about it. But
Oh,
you
my
know,
Lord.
like it was all good. It's like you know, we had no skin in the game at the end of the day.
You could have
so.
given me 1,000 guesses, and I would have never been like Anna Nicole Smith.
Well, you know, you're grinding knives and like you gotta
You're
have
thinking.
some entertainment.
Yeah.
And so I like to listen to true crime podcasts sometimes.
No, I
and,
get that 100%.
Next thing you know,
Do you remember Paulie Senior coming through the drive-thru?
I wasn't there for that.
Oh, you weren't there?
No, tell them that story.
Okay.
I'm going to check the camera. Tell them that
All
story
right.
real quick.
So Orange County Choppers, they go down to Bike Week or whatever it's called in Miami every year, or they used to. And they were coming back. And I was a manager at Steak and Shake. He worked at Steak and Shake as well. And I saw this Orange County Choppers trailer coming through. I'm like, well, that's weird. Someone has an Orange County Chopper sticker on the side of their trailer. Why would they have that? And pulls around the drive-thru, and I had a headset on, listening to whoever was taking the order, and this really gruff voice like, yeah, 3 large melon milkshakes, no toppings. And he just pulls forward. Like, didn't wait for, okay, thanks, nothing. So he pulls around in the drive-thru with this large trailer, and it's Paulie Senior. And he's the only one in the truck.
nice.
96 ounces of vanilla milkshake for one large man. And I'm just like, hi,
Where were you working?
big fan.
we
Steak and
both,
Shake.
yeah,
All right.
that's how we met.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Florida?
No, he was coming back from
okay,
Florida
okay,
and
all
just
right.
pulled off at Turkey Creek and
All right.
went through Steak and Shake and ordered 3 large vanilla milkshakes for himself. He was the only one in the truck. And yeah, I was like, I don't have anything to get your autograph. I was like, we have witnesses that you're here and I know who you are. And he's like, yeah, great. I was like,
Sometimes you gotta poop.
have a good day, sir. Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Orange County Choppers.
Yeah, no, and that's I always return to that dynamic. 'Cause me and my dad had one of those moments today, and it's always fine at the end of it. It's a joke, But yeah, work dynamics can be. I always like to talk about that.
No, I mean honestly, like who you spend your days with is really important. So
Yeah,
I'm glad
yeah.
that Cameron and I get along really well.
That's
and
awesome,
Enjoy our time together.
Yeah, that's wholesome. That's great. Well, on that note, so how did you get into the knife world? Because I know you kind of had a culinary background.
Yeah, so I worked in restaurants in high school and in college. And before that even, I was a Boy Scout. So, all the way from Tiger Cubs all the way to Eagle Scout.
Nice.
Did you get Eagle?
Yeah, yeah.
I did not.
I didn't know that.
I failed to get the last merit badge, which was conservation, oddly enough, before I turned 18. So,
Damn, dude. I didn't know that either.
yeah, I was a Life Scout, and I had a bronze feather, and I was the pack leader, and I turned 18. Or I was the troop leader.
Yeah, it's timed out.
Timed out.
So this is something else I guess I never, it's self-explanatory, but I never put that together. So you have to get that done before you hit the age of 18.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it makes sense, but I never actually put that together. Man. Yeah, that is actually a big accomplishment when you consider all that.
Gotta conserve time.
Yep. So, I don't know. Knives were always a thing.
Yeah.
And then when I worked in restaurants in high school, I worked with these chefs that they had their Japanese knives and nobody touches them. And I was like, wow, those guys are badass. They bring their own knives to work. And so, I got really into knife skills and all that. Then went to college and I, started thinking I don't want to work in a restaurant. It sucks. But knives
Sounds
are cool
familiar.
and food's cool. And so then, I did a bunch of stuff. I made furniture, I did concrete, I did sculptures, I did blacksmith work, kind of the realm of anything you can make in objects I made. And at a certain point, I was like, a knife would be pretty cool to make.
Yeah.
Can't be that hard.
Yeah.
And through all my time in doing metal work, I had never considered what makes metal and the ingredients in it.
The forging
metallurgy.
process.
Well, not the forging process, but just the metallurgy that goes into it and how every steel reacts differently based upon what temperature you heat it to, how you cool it, and just the specific ingredients in it that affect its toughness, that affects its corrosion resistance, that affects its ability to get a sharp edge.
Right.
And so kind of once I started going down that road, I just got obsessed with it and basically just decided like, all right, like I just need to do this.
Yeah.
Now, was that all like self-taught, self-learned?
Yeah.
So you went to UT,
I went to UT, yeah.
fine arts major?
Studied fine arts.
There you go. So I'm just trying to, because I was an English major. Well, I was a broadcast major. English major.
English major, yeah.
And we've all somehow landed in knives.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And you were fine arts too, weren't you?
I did fine
Food-
arts and
food
sculpture.
industry,
And sculpture.
Yeah.
Part of the reason knives is nice is because all of my sculptures were very large, and they would have large, heavy elements.
I
and that
remember,
was, like,
yeah.
There would be totem structures,
Yeah.
and like these things that had their own physical presence. And one of the nice things about knives is you get that, but you can carry it in your pocket.
That's a good point.
There's a beauty and a presence to a knife, and like a whole history and how it looks, and it's also very simple, and like you can get as complex or as simple as you want, but like a knife has a presence. It has its own relationship with space,
And I
its
think
user.
that-
and so it's like a
Showing
little
that
sculpture
off.
you can carry around and use.
This one in particular, I think, is a really good example. I mean, obviously you picked it up with a purpose, but I think that's a perfect example of what you're talking about, because you look at this, and just like the simplicity of the what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of the monotone look of this, the high polished blade on the silver bolster, on the silver handle, and that's very much has that kind of artistic sculpture presence, like you're talking about.
It's like a Richard Serra knife. It's just a minimalist, like.
I wish I got that reference. So is he a minimalist artist?
Yeah.
He's the minimalist.
Okay.
The minimalist artist. He would never use aluminum.
Yeah, it's too light.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was something that really drew me to knives as well. Just being able to have all the attention kind of put into one thing that you know is going to be well taken care of. You know it's going to be well used. You know it's going to be well loved and respected and passed down. And it's something you can pack up and ship in a box. And you don't need a crew of 6 guys to 2 trucks to go install it.
Right. Yeah.
There's also this element that John and I both get bored really easily. And it's, as we've already both taught each other little things here in this podcast already. And like just the rabbit holes you can go down with knives are endless, because you have the molecular structure of steels and the heat treating that John was talking about. Different heat treating methods are not only how fast it cools and the structure inside, but and not even what temperature you bring it up to, but how long you let it sit at that temperature, how things cycle through those temperatures. You can go down into these impossible rabbit holes with those things and pull out microscopes and see the microstructure of things and really get into that. While at the same time, you can do woodworking and how to pull things through, we put things under vacuum and pull resins through the capillaries in wood and try to remove some of that anisotropic nature of wood, where it expands and contracts and absorbs water, and you try to fight against that, but how you do that is really interesting. And then you get to build your own tools. That's a traditional blacksmithing art, and so you get into motors and electrical, and then when you get into machining things and trying to order things, you get into computers and computer-aided design, and then when
It's just a lot of dominoes
when
that
you're poor,
keep-
you get to
It is endless.
we've built our own CNC machines, and we've built our own forges and rolling mills and hydraulic presses that push with multiple tons.
And even your own 3D rendered customizer.
Yeah.
We'll get to that a little bit later.
3D rendered customizer, and so you get into animation using
Yeah.
Blender, and you can just, and at this point you go into advertising and the endless rabbit hole of internet algorithm play, and how to deal with all that shit.
Now, I have a side question to something he just mentioned. He mentioned a whole bunch of machines. And I watched probably the first 8 seasons of Forged in Fire, and they would always go back and show the home forges. And I would see all these machines, and some people just hammering away with just big ping hammers, and some people actually had the presses and the hydraulic hammers. Those are expensive.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we've got this, and we've got this, and we've got that.
It's insanely expensive. I mean, I've been doing it for years now, and I've put every dime back into it.
I can't imagine, because I've just looked, and I follow another guy on YouTube that does that makes his own blades, and he's like, yeah, I spent $20,000 on this hydraulic press.
Yeah.
Huh. Like,
Yeah, we have a $20,000 hydraulic press, and we have a $25,000 power hammer, and then we've got a, I don't know what our CNC's worth at this point. But we've got.
at what point is the break even, other than breaking your shoulder, between the $100 hammer?
We're still trying to find that point.
Yeah, the $100 hammer and the $25,000 power hammer. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still trying to find that point.
When you balk at the prices of some knives, especially ones made like custom, like that's just what it costs, and those people aren't raking it in on you.
Right.
Like they're just not.
Yeah. Yeah, we have about $250,000 worth of equipment in our shop.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we need that again.
Yeah, and we're still we would like more.
Yeah.
So, it's endless. And, that's the cool thing about knives, though. They are man's first invention.
Right.
The first thing we had to do as humans was figure out how to cut stuff.
Right.
So we could, hunt, so we could farm. And through millennia of making knives, there's been more knives made than any other object, perceivably, ever. And yet somehow there's still more that can be made.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
It's funny because are you not familiar with? Do you get on like knife Instagram much?
Some. I have my phases.
Do you know? He goes by Ben Banters on Instagram. He has a company called NAFs.
Yes.
So he's really into the idea. Like he used to work at Blade HQ.
Yes.
And before that, he worked at CRKT. And one thing that he talks about that he commonly ran into is people saying like, well, this knife from this designer looks just like this knife from this designer. And he got so frustrated with that comment where he was like, basically he's saying there's things that you're not appreciating over the internet until you see it in your hand. Yeah. But on top of that, he goes, almost any knife is going to resemble some other knife. And at one point, he actually made a superimposed image of it was a sample of I think 300 different knives. And you could see there was this very sort of commonality there. Yeah. And that's kind of that's the knife. You know what I mean? That's the origin knife right there. And I just find that kind of fascinating that it's almost like an anthropological thing, that you could dig into. But
no, that's the really cool thing about it is there are so many different angles that you can hit it from.
Yeah. It never gets old, really.
No.
Same thing.
But also at this.
No, go ahead.
But also at this point, what's functional is kind of known. What looks good. You're not gonna break the wheel. You might make something really sculptural, but nobody's gonna...
I don't know. We got this new handle material here.
Yeah, this right here
that's new.
Well,
new to me at least.
I don't think a lot of people know what Fortnite is. I mean, a lot of people.
Yeah.
So why don't we can jump into that a little bit.
So this Fortnite, and basically this is just paint that comes off the factory walls in car production facilities. So now the way that they paint cars is with an ultraviolet paint, where basically they spray powder on the car, and then an ultraviolet light goes over it and hardens that paint, and then they sweep away that powder. Well, formerly they would use the old-fashioned enamel paints, and they would spray the cars. The car would roll through, get sprayed, then the next one, and that paint would build up over years and years and years, and harden. And then after these car factories started closing down, people started going in and chiseling at the walls and basically just chipping the walls off and selling it. And so this came out of a Jeep factory. And so these are all Jeep colors.
That's awesome.
And Biton sheets.
So let me ask you, this is a tangent, but we're going to go on it because it's such a cool material. When you're working this, are you doing something intentional to have the material reveal itself that way, or is this just how it?
No, it's however it lays. So sometimes it's just very straight layers.
Sure,
but sometimes there's drips and bubbles. And
well, that one is perfect. I don't want to say symmetrical. It's almost perfectly asymmetrical because where the center of that kind of ripple effect goes or starts from and goes. That's gorgeous.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I really. The first time I saw one of your Fortnite knives, because I'd never heard of it. It blew my mind.
Cool.
And that's since been one of my favorite handle materials I've ever seen, period.
Cool. Yeah.
So, you know, again, with it being as expensive as it is to get, I'm sure it's never going to be super commonly seen.
Yeah.
But I would be excited to see more folks try out using it.
Oh, for sure. It's really cool material, but you know, it's expensive and you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
So you might get into it and it looks totally different on one side than the other.
Yeah.
And some people don't like that. But
It's also just trash, and so sometimes
there's little trash.
you get into it and you'll find that it's like delaminating, and
It'll have like a piece
there's
of masking tape inside of
garbage
Oh,
in
no.
there.
it. Or like
So
a piece of gum or something somebody stuck on the wall.
I mean, but every piece is going to be like one of a kind.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
no two are going to have that same pattern, that same look because of the way the paint laid. So.
Yeah.
but it's also reminiscent of like the way you layer steel if you're just doing random patterning.
Yeah,
So
I totally see
it's
that.
really cool.
Yeah. So I need a refill. Would you like one?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have some of this blackened. I guess
Go ahead.
you guys need a little bit more?
Yeah.
All right. So this, I'm going to let you.
Oh boy.
You're the bourbon master. I'm just the sidekick on the bourbon.
Well, so going back to not reinventing the wheel and how a blade is a blade, all 4 of these bottles have a brown liquid in them, but they're all 4 different. Each one that you taste is going to have a different taste to it. So it's the same way with knives. It's a sharp, pointy object, but this one's got jade, this one's got wood, this one's got micarta, this one's got bone. So they're all a little bit different.
Enough more?
No, that's good.
Okay.
I'm getting ready. I'm going to bust into this one here soon.
Cameron, you want some of this?
I still have a little
Oh,
bit.
okay.
So, and actually that's a nice little segue there too about going into the old Jeep factory and pulling the paint. This one right here that I brought, I actually met the what's the word I'm looking for?
Master distiller, maybe?
No, their rep for Castle and Key on Wednesday of last week. And he turned me on to this. He's like, you got to try this. This is made in the old E.H. Taylor distillery
Oh, cool.
that was closed down. Buffalo Trace bought them and, kind of absorbed them into their process. So Castle and Key now makes this specifically the restoration blend in the old EHT factory. So going in and getting the old paint and putting it in something new in the old factory, revamping it, restoring it, making something new. So
Do they use old barrels or anything like that, or are they all new?
to be considered a bourbon, it has to be new oak, never used
Okay.
before. To be it's the train.
Yeah.
To be a whiskey, it can be anything.
Okay.
Or a blended whiskey, it can be anything.
Okay.
But to have the bourbon moniker, it has to be a brand new, never used white oak barrel. So
And then those are charred or they're not charred?
they are charred.
Okay.
And depending on the level of kind of the color that you want to get or the age that you're going to go, is how long they char the barrels for. And it's in seconds. You can get. That's a very loud train.
We'll give it a minute. But this one, and again, I'm much more of a layman with the bourbons, but I've learned a lot from him. Now this one is a collaboration with Metallica, right?
Yeah.
And it's aged in rum barrels?
Well, so it's a whiskey barrel first. So it was in a used oak barrel, and then it's finished in a rum barrel. So for like 11 months or something. So after it's branded a whiskey, they put it back in a rum barrel for 11 months and then bottle it. So it's pretty good. It's a lot sweeter. So if you like brandy, and or if you don't like the funk that some whiskeys have, blackened's a really good choice. So we've got kind of a tried and true staple 101. Most people on the interwebs, their go-to for anything, whether it neat, rocks, cocktail, 101 is kind of the go-to for.
It's funny because I don't drink 101 that often, but my wife got me one nice bottle that's like my favorite bottle, period. But then she also got me some little airplane bottles of 101. And the other night I was doing some work and I was like, yeah, I need a drink. And so I poured that 101 out and I was like, man, this is like a lot better than I realized that it was going to be. So yeah, I had to pick up a bottle.
Memory serves me, the camping trip that we took to Roan Mountain was the first time you had 101.
It was, but still, even then though, I hadn't quite developed my sense of appreciating bourbon, And so like I probably had it then and I couldn't tell you why I liked it, which I probably still can't elaborate on why I like it very well, but I can definitely identify the things in it that really I dig about it.
The high alcohol content.
It's the ethanol.
Well, you get to the point where, and it's just like with knives, you get to the point where you know what you like, you know what you don't like.
Right.
And so once you start drinking, you can go, I don't like that.
Right.
That doesn't taste right, doesn't have the notes or the flavors I'm looking for. It's too ethanol forward, or it's got too much of that the tannin, the barrel note to it. You know, maybe I do like something in rum or brandy.
Yeah.
I think I said rum earlier. That's brandy.
It's brandy. Okay, well, that was my mistake. I said rum. Brandy. Okay.
Yeah. I actually had rum on the mind because Brushy Mountain just made a whiskey rum blend, so we may have to go. To
We got
Mountain.
it. So I was at the liquor store the other day, and like, have y'all ever been to Frozen Head? Mm-hmm. Like that's one of my favorite state parks we got here, and they've got Brushy Mountain's making a Frozen Head vodka now, and the bottles. I don't drink vodka, but the bottle's super cool, and it's got like the ridge line on it, and it just says Frozen Head on it. I'm like, and I don't buy for bottles. I almost bought that because I'm like, this is great, man. I like seeing Frozen Head get a little bit of appreciation, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I really think that we need to start checking some of their stuff out because I have no idea what the quality.
Right there.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
I'm up there every other weekend. It's
there you go.
there.
Yeah. So. But so Cameron, what is that you got over there?
J.W. Kelly.
Okay.
It's just really good. So I believe J.W. Kelly made Scotch and then moved here to the States over a century ago, and then was introduced to bourbon, which is a better drink. And he just started making bourbon.
Now I'm wondering, do they still use Scotch barrels? Because it has a hint of peat in it.
I don't know.
You can taste the bog.
You can taste the bog in it. Yeah. That's not a negative for Scotch lovers.
Not at all, but I don't know necessarily.
Okay. Because one of my favorites
I
is
just know that it's one of my. I used to like scotches, and then I started drinking bourbon in my late 20s, and I was like bourbon that I spent more than $20 on.
Right.
And I just started to enjoy bourbon a lot more. Like it doesn't have that sourness to it. And
Yeah. Well, some of them do.
some of them do, but it's never quite this. It doesn't taste like you're drinking a bog. If that's what you like, people know what they like. That's fine.
Man, I got
Don't fire
roasted
me,
on
but,
Facebook
like,
the other day because I posted a picture
tastes
of
like you're eating Pete.
a bottle of Campfire. If you know what Campfire is, it's made by High West. It's 1/3 whiskey, 1/3 rye, and 1/3 imported Scotch.
I think
All
you and I
blended.
would agree that's probably about as close as we like to get to Scotch.
Yeah.
Typically, yeah.
So it's like Scotch light.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. And some guy was like, it's like taking your worst bottle of alcohol, pouring it in an ashtray, and just licking it out of the ashtray. I was like, wow, that's
I didn't see that
you
comment.
didn't see that comment?
No.
That was on the KBS.
Jesus, that's
Yeah,
mean.
Yeah.
God.
I was like, thanks, buddy. That's
He's been holding on to that.
yeah.
That's just dip spit.
Yeah.
False.
Dip spit.
Oh my Lord.
That's gonna ruin it for me.
I can't drink Mountain Dew anymore.
I haven't had Mountain Dew since I was like 18.
One mistake too many.
Man, I had my first bottle of Coke in like months tonight because I got the kids to bed and I was just like, oh, we got to record tonight. I'm like, whew. And so I had to give in, had to get a little bit of that sugar and caffeine in me. But that was a great summary of what we
Okay.
have on the table. I appreciate it because I certainly can't do it that eloquently.
I can keep going. We're only halfway done.
I know. Guys, if we go over a little bit, y'all.
Yeah, no hurry.
Worst
If
case
nothing else,
scenario,
2.
2 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we won't keep y'all that long, but
No, that's awesome.
no, I'm glad y'all are having fun because I know we are. I feel like the amount I've learned in the last freaking 40 minutes is just like. But I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what you guys are doing with Primeaux because obviously that's really exciting. And whoever's watching this podcast, y'all probably saw the video that I put up on the 3D customizer, which Cameron, you had a lot of lion's share of developing that, correct?
Yeah, so a big part of what we wanted to figure out how to do was how to make knives easily, make a really high quality product. really easily. And so we started with the design, and we started trying to make them, and we found out that it's just very slow.
No matter what.
No matter what, like making them in-house is very slow. And then like we went through a lot of outsourcing and things before we finally found somebody who worked for us and didn't just blow our stuff. But and then what we were able to concentrate on was making interchangeable parts, like a lot of companies do, where you can get this with 4 different kinds of scales. I think that's been discontinued, but anybody watching this probably understands that you can buy lots of different colors and lots of different things and
different options,
especially
a lot of
EDC
different
stuff.
options
Yeah, exactly,
with your
yeah.
EDC. And so a lot of things are kind of going in that direction because people like to customize their own thing.
Yeah.
They like a custom object. But,
Right.
And John also dealt a lot with doing custom orders for people.
Cool, yeah.
And, he'd have 300 emails with one person.
Oh, my Lord.
Over,
No joke.
over
So is this in the
like
Phillips Forged era?
18
Yeah.
months.
Okay.
Yeah.
For somebody to decide they wanted, walnut wood with a brass pin.
Oh, my
and
good
Yeah,
Lord.
very simple designs.
Yeah.
52-100
Wow.
steel, and he'd have like more emails than you could sneeze at, and it's just so we were trying to give people that, but also
Right.
make it look really good.
Yeah.
So I got to use, people. That's another tangent, but I got to use a lot of time on the computer, and I already had built the 3D models so that we could, mill things and share with our vendors what we needed and what we wanted, and we had drawings. So I was able to turn those, and we did a lot of 3D printing for prototyping.
Right, yeah.
So I was able to take those files and put them in Blender, and then learn how to do, like Blender is an enormous, clunky, open source, amazing program. But I was able to learn what I needed to do to be able to put this stuff inside of a 3D space so that you can build the knife you want and see what it looks like on your computer.
Yeah, and I think
You
that
can really...
I think you nailed it. Speaking of which, if you don't mind handing me that so I can show that off, because those of y'all that saw the video,
I feel like I just rambled, but
no,
did
that was
come
like
across?
no. I mean, that's what I wanted to hear about the process from your perspective of having worked on it. But this is the result of that designing system. This is a K-tip gyuto. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Kirisuke is the.
Oh, okay, Kirisuke.
That's
Yeah.
completely different than what you said.
I know.
But
I know.
well, it also Gyoto. Kirisuke is a style of Japanese blade that has that clipped
That
front
part.
end.
Okay.
Gotcha.
The tip. We also call it a K-tip.
So I may have misspoken. So is this exact pattern, or in terms of the blade shape, is that an older pattern or?
It's a traditional Japanese.
Okay. See, and I thought
Design.
I thought it was. I assumed with that sharp chop, I was like, oh, that must be more of a modern pattern.
I think it's really gotten popular
Okay.
just over the past like 5 years. We've started seeing a lot more. It has more of that kind of sports car
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
Kind
what
of
attracted me.
feel to it.
And so, yeah, this whole knife was the product of that process. So throughout that process, I was able to choose the blade shape, choose the finish from high polish versus stonewash versus Damascus. The style of bolster, there was bronze, antique bronze, anodized aluminums, and then the handle is JG10, but there were also a huge number of anodized aluminum handles. Now for me, this is the one that spoke to me, but it's really cool to me that anybody that comes onto the website is going to be able to just pick out exactly what they want. That's such a brilliant idea.
We've got people who they want like a sports team or something, and they can match their colors for what they want.
Right,
Or they want something that speaks specific, like a pink handled knife speaks to the gift they want to give. Like
Sure.
somebody who enjoys those colors, or like we've got these colors that match with the Barbie movie. Like really,
Yeah, and,
I've
it's,
got
You can
a
match
number
that.
of them.
You can match this coin right here.
Yeah,
if you wanted
so
to.
it's super cool. We can have both like a super modern, sleek
Right.
piece versus like a really kind of antique, old world looking design.
Yeah.
And I have some of the parts here. Like here's.
Oh, you weren't kidding about the Barbie. All right.
Yeah, we made a
It's-
set that was like
Oh yeah, here's
pink
the.
and purple.
I don't have the bolster for it, but
Well, I was going to ask a question when Cameron was talking earlier about, is there such a thing as too specific? Because you said about 300 emails with, I want this specific wood and this specific pen.
I can get here. There we go.
When I'm doing those real high-end custom pieces,
you can choose
it might be a
on
$3,000,
the-
$4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $20,000 job.
Yeah.
And so, when you start talking about those super high-end clients, there's really no such thing as too specific.
Yeah.
It's more of just convincing them that I know what they're talking about and what they want.
Will you check mine too?
Yes.
Cool. Well, no, that's interesting. Because I was wondering, because I just got to see the finished product. I haven't done the full walkthrough on the website yet to know what is too specific. And
Yeah, so we're kind of limited a little bit with technology.
still count.
We
and inventory.
So obviously these things, every part is really expensive, and then multiply that times 100, 200, 300, it gets infinitely more expensive really quick.
Yeah.
So right now we have about 1,500 different combinations you can do. And we'll have more.
When Enzo was explaining the process to me and the website to me of how it works, I think that's genius, because then you can have people, I don't want to say pick and choose their battle, but pick and choose their weapon.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of goes back
Their
to
kitchen weapon.
But it kind of goes back to like where I started with making knives, is that I had an idea of something that I wanted, and I started looking around and it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so, I think I'm finally getting to the thing that I wanted that started me out.
What you were building toward.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
There's also this thing where I don't get it because my brain doesn't work this way, but like my wife can't picture what something is going to look like until she sees it. And I know a lot of people tell me that that's the way their brain works. And I think that's what happens a lot of the time with these emails, or people are like, I want this.
Okay.
But they don't actually know what it's going to look like. And then sometimes he'll make, we've made these really expensive knives and people get them and they're like, eh.
Yeah.
This isn't exactly what I want. And a lot of the time they're cool with that and they're like, yeah, this was my fault.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, you did exactly what I said.
asked for. And
Dude.
with this, like, it's so specific. Part of why we wanted it so specific and to look like what you're actually going to get is because, like, so that won't happen.
Right.
And so you can see what you're
you've got a visual,
representation.
Thank you. That was exactly what I was trying to say.
Going
That's
through
why I pay you the big bucks. Yeah.
Going through and building all the
It is a
text-
real word.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. We're just debating the authenticity of a word. You ever heard of the word historicity?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a word. It's a word.
Only because he watches our videos.
I married a lawyer.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I just need to get Becca on to verify any argument that I...
All the time, she'll say stuff. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you made that word up. It's like, all right.
No, but to speak to that a bit, one question I had, for both of y'all really, is with these designs, I know they're based on these kind of more traditional culinary patterns, but at what point does inspiration kind of really step in there? And obviously a great deal of it comes in with
I mean, there's a lot of inspiration, especially in the handle, I would say,
Right,
is where we
kind of what I was
took
guessing.
a lot from. So like the bolster kind of came from, I got tired of seeing people try to cut like this.
Yeah.
And so we were like, maybe we just gave people a place that their thumb fits nice into. That'd be cool, and they'd hold the knife right.
Right.
And then we started thinking about, the history of design. And I've always been really into cars and motorcycles, and so I told Cameron, I was like, let's look at some old cars and motorcycles. And so first thing he went to was the old Corvettes.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so they have that scoop on the side of the car, and I'm always really into Triumph motorcycles, which also kind of have that same scoop on the side of the motorcycle tank.
And this particular shape lends itself to both that aesthetic, but it also was a 3D scan of a thumb that was cut out of a shape.
That's perfect.
So it all just sort of worked together a lot, and then we added these little details as just like a little, to give it a little extra finery in what you're getting.
And I'm really into Art Deco design.
Yeah.
And so, they have kind of a lot of these little details. we kind of tried to follow like these classic like Art Deco lines. A lot of it's seen in like the Empire State Building and like, a lot of other architecture and artwork as well. So yeah, we wanted to create something that was like both modern but also timeless.
Yeah.
Something you see it and you don't really know what time it's from.
Yeah. No, I mean I think you've definitely achieved it.
We started trying to design a knife today for. We wanted to do a camp knife, just like a nice traditional camp knife.
Yes.
But I pulled up a picture of an Aston Martin and another Corvette.
So a classic
and a Ferrari,
Aston Martin. Like a Bond era Aston Martin?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like Burt Reynolds' mustache. Like a few other things.
You got to get a good mood board going,
Yeah. So
the Burt Reynolds mustache is an essential on
and
everybody's
all these are on the program just as
A high-end 70s porn stash camp knife. All right.
Like I want to smell like whiskey when you pull it out of the box, and campfire.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, I think a lot of people now when you say camp knife, I'm trying to figure out what I'm picturing. Is that like a larger kind of?
It's probably not going to be very large. We still want to do like a kind of a gentleman's carry knife.
Gotcha. Okay.
But something that you can baton with, or something
sweet.
that you can really like pry and be rough on, but also very classy.
Yeah, the overall footprint will probably be smaller than this.
Okay. Awesome. So I guess kind of elaborating on that inspiration question a little bit. Obviously, you probably had a lot of that when you had clients reaching out to you for Phillips Forged knives. What was there any source or anything that you would draw upon? Because some of those designs are just absolutely wild. And of course, I included some photos in the videos I've done because they blow my mind every time I see them. One that always leaps to my mind is the handles that you made with that glass blower.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that was crazy. So where did you come up with an idea like that, like glass blown handles? Like I would never even consider that.
I don't know. I was just like, it'd be cool.
Happens, yeah.
It'd be cool. And I know this guy.
That's perfect.
So I hit the guy up, and he's also a knife fan.
Okay. That's always.
And he was basically like, yeah, we can do that.
Man, that's awesome. I'll try to remember to drop a photo here in case y'all haven't seen it because those knives are crazy.
Yeah, I get a lot of requests for those again, and I'm like, sorry, we did it once, and that's probably it.
Yeah, no, that's special, man. Whoever has a hold of those, any of those, good grief, yeah, those are special knives. So I guess another thing I kind of wanted to touch on, and we may have already kind of spoken about this a little bit. At what point did you kind of feel like, for both of y'all really, because obviously this kind of has to start as a hobby at some point, but then when exactly does it translate into being a profession or a full-time venture?
Well, for me, there was a very poignant moment when I realized that it had to be my full-time job. And that's when I was kind of bouncing around doing a few jobs. So I was doing knives like for fun in the evenings. And then I was doing fabrication work during the day. And then on the weekends, sometimes I'd go to like Nashville or Asheville and do shows. And I went to Nashville and did a show. And this chef was walking by my table who I knew. And he's on Netflix and like famous guy.
Yeah.
And I yelled across the room for him. And he looks around and sort of comes over to my table and was like, "Oh shit, this is cool."
Nice.
And he bought up like almost everything on the table.
Holy cow.
And just meeting this guy and then him buying my stuff was like, had me on cloud nine. I was so stoked.
Yeah.
And then the next day he and I went out for coffee. We talked for like 3 hours. It was awesome. Said bye, thought, all right, never see this guy again. And then like a month later he posts on social media and instantly I had like 3,000 notifications in my phone.
Oh my God, man.
And
I'm gonna have to ask you after the cameras aren't rolling who that is.
I'll tell you. His name is Sean Brock.
Oh.
He has a restaurant called Husk and another one called Audrey, another one called Joyland. He's a best-selling New York Times, cookbook guy. So yeah, instantly people were like, wanting my stuff.
Wow, that's
it. So that's when I had to be like, all right, this is all I'm doing now.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely like a touchstone moment for sure. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I didn't expect it at all.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him to do anything for me. It just happened. And then he ended up putting my knife, or some of my knives, into his cookbook that ended up being like the best-selling cookbook of 2020.
Oh my Lord, man. That's fantastic.
So really it was just like that one moment for me. And then all of a sudden I was just busy making knives.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
It takes one person or just one instance.
Yeah. And then after that, that kind of provided the social proof that like other celebrities start hitting me up and other people that want to spend too much money on knives. And it was just on from that.
Man.
See, I always watch cooking shows when I'm cooking because I feel like for some reason it may help me cook better. Because I'm the cook at home. My wife does not cook. So every meal I've got something on the Netflix or the YouTube or something where I'm watching Gordon Ramsay or something like that. Cooking while I'm cooking. Like,
Cool.
oh, he's chopping it like this.
I feel like
I'm
that
chopping like
stressed me out, man.
Yeah.
Particularly Gordon Ramsay. I feel like I couldn't.
No, I tried to play along, and he's got like kind of demos like cook with me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've made his scrambled eggs like while he's making them. I'm like, add the butter. All right, we're going to stir this over here now. So no, I enjoy that. So I was curious.
Yeah.
Not that it would be Gordon Ramsay.
Oh,
I mean,
with Gordon Ramsay.
What's that?
I mean, basically.
That was his touchstone moment. He's a professional chef now after cooking with Gordon Ramsay. Cameron, you had any kind of experience like that or anything like, I guess, like when actually one question that I have for you, because I remember those sculptures you used to make, and they always like really impressed me. When did you become interested in that?
In sculpture?
Yeah. Because obviously that kind of seems to be the thing for you that really led you down this path.
Well, I was a music major in college, and I was also broke as hell. And,
Please
I
do.
met somebody who was a handyman, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Fixing stuff is nice. I fixed my own car. I kind of hate working on cars. But yeah, I could do this for a job. And he was a terrible handyman. He was awful. He taught me how to not do everything. Like just the wrong way to do literally anything he did. But, it was my first experience where it's like, okay, this is broken. How do you fix it? I don't know. Put a hole in the wall and then fix it and then fix the hole in the wall. You're little and you don't put holes in the wall. That's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
And so it was just this really exciting time for me. And then I was going back to school. I took time off and came back and took time off and came back just because I couldn't afford it. And I didn't want to go into an enormous amount of debt.
That's wise.
I was doing that, and I met this girl, and she was in art, and so I was like, yeah, I'll take an art class when I come back this time. It's totally about
It was
a girl.
all for a girl.
And then I lied to the grad student at the time who was watching over the shop, and I was like, yeah, I've welded before. Can you give me a refresher though? Because I really want to make this thing, and it was great. Like I wanted to make a very specific object, and it was big, and I got to do all this ridiculous stuff, like drive a big dually with a giant metal bench, like hanging off the front like a unicorn, and like barely grazing red lights as we drove down the road. And then I got to essentially like break into a shop and cut things because I wasn't allowed in there, but I was being allowed because somebody just like thought I could do stuff, and he thought he'd give me the chance to do it.
Wow.
And then I got to use a plasma cutter, and I was
that's
just like,
pretty dope.
this is an actual fucking lightsaber. This just like cuts through steel. What? I'm like, what? It's insane. And I got to use I used a TIG welder before I ever used a MIG welder. Like,
I remember a long time ago, you were trying to explain to me like the process of TIG welding. And you were showing me some stuff. You remember that?
it's like sewing metal.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
It is a high craft.
Do you still ever mess around with that kind of stuff these days?
Yeah, I mean, we
we
make
take it
our
to shop.
we make our own tools.
Well, of course. Yeah, you
have
mentioned that earlier.
You have to do stuff to make your own tools.
Yeah.
And then I did fabrication and so in sculpture you learn how to do stuff, but then there's art and then there's craft, and those things cross paths a lot. But one of them is like very skill heavy, and the other is very theoretical heavy, and they can be the exact same thing, but they are also not the same thing.
Well, it's like
And
one of my favorite bladesmiths. His name's Ilya. He's kind of like Cher, and he's got one name, Ilya. He was on Forged and Fire. He won his episode.
Okay.
But I knew him before that because he had his own YouTube channel. Every time he needs a tool, he just makes it. And that blows my mind. He's like, I don't have what I need. I guess I'll just make it. And he just makes whatever he needs. And so with the fabrication concept, or the sculpture concept, that's amazing that you all can just, I need this tool. I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I was about to say, I can't even begin to think about the process of doing that. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I don't know.
It's a curse, really. Like,
y'all seem a little less enthused.
it sounds awesome in theory, but then it's like, man,
It's like, this would work way better if I just dumped
we-
like $2,000 and 7 weeks of my life into this.
yeah,
And then it does, but then you're like, I haven't actually made
7 weeks later.
profit.
Oh gosh.
yeah, and it's also like, we spend a lot of time figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
And so, things usually don't work right the first time. So, there's iterations you got to do.
God,
and
yeah.
we're not happy unless we do it the way that we want to do it.
Right.
That's gotta be right. Like, refine, even the assembly method on these knives is like something that took a lot. And the assembly method ended up joining with the machining and the work holding, where it's just like, well, we can assemble it this way if we use this process, and then we can solve a work holding problem if we use this exact same process to hold like the part for machining. And so it runs down these little
like a
holes,
ladder,
and
yeah.
it's, I don't know. It's
Oh
just,
my God.
I mean, we built our own, like, I don't think either of us had done much with pneumatics, and then we built our own plate quenching system for the stainless steel, because it has to cool a little more slowly than
Did you
high
show that
carbon
to me?
steel.
Yeah.
I think so.
I
The
think
machine that closes.
Yeah. Y'all built that yourself?
Yeah, Cameron pretty
Damn.
much did
Yeah.
all that.
But it's like water cooled and has all these elements, because we needed to not do like 5 knives. We needed to do, I think
300.
I think we did 540 in one day
Oh
with
my
this little system. So it's not like this huge, the huge cabinets that we knife company,
Sure. Or a massive
Riot or
production
whatever
company,
are
yeah.
using, where they have this giant cabinet that everything goes in on a rack, and it heats everything up to 1900 degrees, and then dumps liquid nitrogen and goes through a little thin barrier and dumps liquid nitrogen through. But we get just as good of a result with a smaller system. But like, figuring out how to do that took like 2 years.
Gosh.
Literally.
Yeah.
Of like, this, now what, maybe this, and then maybe this. Oh, that didn't work, and we
we
just screwed up a whole batch. But the next batch we won't screw up, because we learned from that batch that we can do this. But nobody makes it, or if somebody does make it, it costs like
$40,000.
Oh my
$40,000,
God.
and
Yeah.
you need an entire like building separate for it. And we're like, okay, maybe this.
Yeah.
But see,
It's just.
my observation though is that I feel like y'all probably, I keep thinking like maybe these guys will get a minute where y'all have a point where you feel comfortable resting, but y'all don't strike me as the type to ever do that.
I don't think we will.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what we've talked about.
Yeah.
But also like, there's just always something else we want to do.
Right, yeah.
And there's always new ways that we know things can be done.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to figure that out.
He's
just
laughing
saw
at
that.
it. He's laughing at our photo.
That's that trick. It's got flat tires.
But see, to me, that's a quality that if I'm being totally honest with myself, I probably don't have that quality. I find it very admirable in people, though, and my dad's that way. He's very much that way, and that's a wonderful quality to bring to a custom knife shop.
Well, no, I'll disagree with you because of those things sitting right over there that you've made.
Those things that don't sell.
Well, but you still put in the time and
couple
the
things
effort
on that
and the work.
Yeah.
I mean, you went and bought this heavy ass press.
I drove to Pennsylvania to buy that from some Dutch Amish
Right.
fellas.
And I remember there was one, and I think you did it in, was it jade? The stone that you had to carve for that one album. And you told me, you were like, I'm so stressed out about it because like if I mess up one letter in this like carving, But you got it done.
Yes, I'm trying to recall that. I again, you know how bad my memory is.
Right.
I remember talking about it,
But you put that same amount of effort and practice into your work.
Yeah.
It's just a different genre.
It is, and I don't want to get down this tangent too far, just because it's not knife related, but in case y'all don't know, I hand make albums, like photo albums, and it's a dying industry. And I had a meeting with a client today, and on another part of our business, but I was just trying to gauge whether or not they were interested in purchasing an album, and it's every meeting that I have now, it's almost always no, and I know it's because of just how increasingly dependent we are on our digital selves, you know, which on the one hand, I think there are some benefits to that, but on the other hand, seeing like physical material things, you know, kind of disappear, which something like a knife, you're always going to need a knife.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
I would almost say we're in agreement on something about the physical aspect of not necessarily the texture or the touch, but like books.
Yeah.
I cannot read an ebook.
Right.
I was gifted an e-reader thing once. I don't know where it's at. I would much rather read the book. I would much rather turn the page. I would much rather feel either the leather bound or just, you know, whatever it's made out of. Turn the pages, the physical aspect of it, than just sit there and scroll on a tablet.
Absolutely. I
Well,
completely
there are
agree.
studies that show that you don't retain information as well when you read it on a screen either.
That's
And
interesting.
Especially if you need to go back and reference something, like on an e-reader, it's like, you know, they make all these things to make it easier, but it's still like, I needed to read, you know, if your kid goes through and like taps several pages, it's really hard to
It's
find
gone.
where
Yeah.
you were in the book, or if you're trying to do that with a textbook or something, it's just impossible. And being able to just flip back and forth and reference is, you know, it's kind of the same reason why even in the digital, like 2 monitors is better than 1, because you're not flipping back and forth.
Yeah.
Like you can just reference.
Yeah. Map everything out. And that's like, I remember too, like we're both big Tolkien fans. But, like when I was reading Silmarillion, like I was just scribbling notes in the margins.
You have to.
Yeah.
'Cause there's no way.
With a book like that, you have to. Anything dense.
So speaking of Tolkien,
Yeah, absolutely.
and back to our camp knife we're working on.
Okay. I like this already.
Yes.
It has some serious Tolkien vibes.
All right. That's
Just saying.
fantastic.
Just saying.
So how soon can we expect to learn more about this?
I'm hoping by the end of the year.
Okay, sweet.
That's
awesome.
We're really kind of hoping that, you know, by next holiday season,
Why are you laughing? Because you're
because
It's one of
You
these
said
things.
we, and he laughed like.
It's one of these things where you design, like I had already sketched it out and I drew up 2D and then I showed it to John, because John usually has like little tweaks about how the lines go or something. This might be the first thing I've drawn where he's like, no, that's good. And I was just like, man, I drew this thing. It's really great. I really like. I'm happy with how this looks, but I don't know how to make it. Like, and so you have to. So the next thing, like, I could make one of these.
yeah, making one
don't
or
know.
something is like not that hard.
Yeah.
Making 5 is not that hard.
Then would this be like a Primeaux thing, or would it be more of a custom one-off?
No,
Specialty.
we're gonna do a new line that's gonna
Okay.
be like, we haven't thought of a name yet.
Sure,
But it's gonna
okay.
be something by Primeaux.
Nice. Okay.
Basically. So, but it's gonna be a full production knife.
Okay. I think like a lot of our viewers would
Yeah.
be particularly excited about a camp-related.
Camp-related.
Well, then
and
Tolkien-related.
Tolkien, yeah. Go
So-
ahead and put me down for one as long as
Here's
I like Tin
a
Pan.
nerd question. Are the lines of the design, is it particularly elven looking?
It is Burt Reynolds' mustache, actually. Only if you mirror it. Like
Okay. I'm thinking about mirroring Burt Reynolds' mustache, which is
in a
not
very
something
specific
that I thought I
picture
would
of
be
it.
thinking about when I woke up today.
No. That's funny. So, have you seen? I assume we've all seen the Lord of the Rings movies when they are reforging Narsil, and they're putting the pieces, the shards together, and just they heated them up and just hammered them together.
Yeah.
And I watched and went, no,
work
no,
like
no,
that.
no. That's not how that works. No, you've got to fold that back together. No. So there's certain aspects of the movie I'm like, they nailed this. Now, yes, it's
The greatest movie trilogy, probably. That is better than Star Wars, OG Star Wars. What do y'all think?
Can't compare them.
That's
I mean,
that's
they're
hard to
both
do.
high fantasy.
But from book to film, I mean they did
nailed
pretty
it.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, Two Towers is my favorite book, and the movie is not completely accurate. But
Yeah.
You can get mad about Tom Bombadil all you want. Like
That's- now, that
he does
doesn't-
not lend much to.
I was
He's
about to say,
fun.
it doesn't bother
He's
me.
fun. He
Yeah.
really doesn't lend a
that
lot
hurts.
to the
What did you
story.
do?
He's
Oh,
one of my
you-
favorite
I thought you literally hurt
characters,
yourself.
but he doesn't need to be there, and the movie's
Dude,
long as shit.
so do you think Tom
You
Bombadil
got a
should be in the
quick
movie?
cut.
I think he was in the book enough that he should have made at least an appearance, at least in the Fellowship at some point.
Yeah, but then it's like if
It's
you give the
everybody's-
people just a taste of the Bombadil, they're gonna want more Bombadils.
Yeah, that's true.
Look, the Lord of the Rings. They didn't.
That's got to be a sticker. More Bombadil.
They didn't do it like they did The Hobbit, which I didn't.
yeah.
Hobbit was awful.
I'm like, what am I watching? Is this The Hobbit?
Yeah.
What's happening?
There were 3 Hobbit books, the original Hobbit, and then there were 2 others that were written by other people, and so it's a trilogy. And so they decided to take those 3 books and make 3 movies. They should have just made the 1 book, the 1 movie, and been done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
worked with
Yeah.
the animation. It was
Awful.
lovely.
Awful.
In the 70s.
Anyway, so
did
the
a
way they
great
forged
job.
Narsil into Anduril was wrong. That's all I wanted to say.
The thing is, they could have done it pretty well if they had had a very specific environment that they, like a very oxygen-free environment that you stick the blade in.
Oxygen-free?
You could theoretically
Yeah.
have like created, what's it called? Like a casket for a box for a cask for it, and sealed out everything and given it light pressure on each side.
These are elves.
You can they are elves. Like they're skilled.
They had a coal forge. Yeah. I just there were so many D-lambs that
but
would have
it's
been in
elven
that.
coal.
and-
Yeah.
What?
Elven coal.
Oh, half them off.
I don't know how pure is their carbon. Come on.
I was like, 1 hit and that thing's gonna shatter.
It's up there with the Beskar steel, you know.
Best
Oh, the
Beskar,
best car.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Beskar is good with the gas flames.
Yeah.
Dude. Yes. I mean, it's a lot better than what is it?
Impenetrable to lightsaber, but a
when-
little natural gas. Yeah.
When they're making the like Arya's sword.
Oh, was
and
this
the
in Game of
other sword
Thrones?
In Game of Thrones,
Uh-huh.
where they're like pouring
Yeah.
they've melted down the Damascus and they're pouring it into molds. I'm like, no, that's not.
It's like for
that's the
some reason
worst
I feel
one
like
I've
a
seen.
phone call
Yeah.
could have been made. Just a simple, hey, how do you actually do this?
Yeah.
Oh, this is wrong? Okay, thanks. You
And
know.
there was nobody on set that was
Yeah.
like, sir.
It's a beautiful shot, you know. Pouring hot metal is sexy. It's cool. It makes for good videos. We cast a bunch of these out of bronze when we were figuring out how to do it. We took videos. It's real good. Like hot metal's cool to watch. That's not how you make
But yeah, you don't want to cast
pattern steel.
Oh man. Well.
And even the most advanced powdered steels now,
Yeah.
they're not even done that way. They're
Yeah. So I don't
just
really.
heat and pressure.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't have a real. I mean, obviously, like ingot steels, I kind of understand, but like with the powder steels, I'm like I know that why like the fine grain structure and all of that, but I have like no understanding of the metallurgy process behind that. But
Advanced science.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
forge welding on a powdered level.
Yeah, so they take
It's to remove impurities.
they take very, very, very fine powder that is it's like powdered sugar,
Oh, okay.
like that fine.
Wow.
And they rain it down into a canister that is filled with inert gases. And those inert gases grab onto the metal particles and kind of they drive off any oxygen and create a nice inert shield around those particles.
Wow. Okay.
And those particles all rain down and kind of stack up like snow in the bottom of this container.
Okay.
Then they get that up to about 2,000 degrees and they apply hundreds of thousands of pounds of pressure. And all those pieces of powder just electronically bond to each other.
Okay.
And that's essentially how it's done. And then they just work it down from there.
That's fancy, and I've never had that explanation of powder steel before. That's fantastic.
I did sports broadcasting. I didn't do science.
It's the same thing.
I mean,
we're like,
I went to art school.
I'm gonna check that camera real
it's
quick.
the same thing when you're
both of
making
them.
powdered steel, or when you're making layered steel or Damascus.
Yeah.
Like you're heating it up so that the electrons get really excited and they change places, and you get a homogeneous bond.
Yeah.
So
They're electronically bonded.
Gotcha.
like the electrons in the atoms change places with each other. So it's not,
It's like,
which is different than like mokume or things
where it's a liquid diffusion.
On that note, do y'all have? Because I know y'all have experimented with like some other types of steels. Like obviously the blade that I have is AEBL, which I know a lot of custom makers really dig AEBL. And y'all had some Nitro V for a little bit, right?
Yeah, we've done Nitro V,
Yeah.
we've done 52-100, 1084, 15 and 20.
Is there kind of a zone that you guys like to hang out in terms of like the makeup of the steel, or?
Somewhat. It's really more about the heat treatment protocols
Okay.
that we found and kind of the finishing or finishes that we like. Some steels just don't really finish well, but they're maybe a really tough, really good steel.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't lend itself well to, say, a kitchen knife,
Okay.
like spring steel, for instance.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
awesome. Like
Yeah.
it makes the best machetes,
Yeah.
swords. It's tough
Like
as
super
hell.
tough, yeah.
Super tough. But it likes to warp when you get it real thin.
I see.
It might be prone to chipping when it gets thin.
Yeah.
And it might not get as sharp as we want it to.
Right. Okay. That makes
So it
sense.
just depends on the application more than anything.
The reason I ask too is and I always appreciate. Well, I say I always. Y'all are really the first knife makers we've actually had ever talked to. But I appreciate hearing that from you guys, because on our side of things, I think a lot of folks in YouTube land tend to want to complain about like, oh, my M390 didn't cut 350 times through the rope instead it only cut 325 times. It's stuff like that where.
oh man.
Well,
Sorry.
no, please.
I mean, so I've got this wee knife that is oh shoot, what is it?
I forgot you had that, and that's a cool knife.
This is CPM 20 CV.
That's an
Which is-
M390 analog then, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like,
like one of the
a
toughest.
super
Right.
steel. This knife, I don't notice it staying sharp any longer than like, honestly, this one, the D2, that's one of my favorite steels. I love D2.
Yeah? Okay.
I think it's awesome. And you never know how things lived in their heat treat life, but like I think this one stays sharp longer than that one.
Wow.
One of my favorite steels in a pocket knife
I'm going to hold
is
some of these
this,
up to the camera here.
this 8CR16 MOV. I think that stuff is great. I think it's great.
Oh, we just lost some subscribers.
I know.
Holy cow.
Look, like, if you
I love-
need
so I
to
gotta-
open 700 boxes instead of 650, like, just
No, I've got
sharpen your damn
some that
knife.
are 8CR, but
Like-
the internet for the most part hates 8CR.
No, they love to hate HCR. And we've
mean,
said
of
before
course
that
they
like
do.
HCR is not as
It's
bad
fine.
as everybody wants
It's
to.
easy to sharpen.
Dude, I want to
I
say
mean,
that.
I will say, Damas steel is the best steel in the world, and I'm not saying that as a plug. Like, this stuff is crazy, and it gets so sharp. But it's also the biggest pain in the butt to finish.
Want to see that?
Like, it is part of why it's so awesome is because it's really hard and durable, and it is just so hard to finish. And it's hard to work with. It's
Hard to
amazing
forge,
once
yeah.
you get it, but
Everything's difficult about it, but it's awesome steel.
Well, when I started like photographing for you guys, that was the first time I'd ever really seen Damas steel or Damas steel.
Damas steel,
Okay.
whatever.
So I think you explained it to me once. So is it that it's basically like a powder version?
It's that powder process
Okay.
I was talking about.
Okay.
But they have a very special process that they've patented.
Damn cool.
And so Damas steel is produced by Scandic Steel out of Sweden.
Okay.
And
So is this one like a 14C28? That one.
That's the Dama steel. I don't know.
It's its own.
It's its own.
It's
Yeah.
own stuff. I don't
Yeah.
really know what to compare it to be honest. There is a Scanvic steel that is analog, but I can't remember what it's called.
Their mono steel stuff that they sell is essentially like molecularly about the same as the Scanvic.
Because the only thing that I think either of us
are
are
different alloys that they've developed as well.
okay. It's like the only thing that I think either of us are really familiar with from Sandvik is like the 14C28N.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
great like budget steel. Like you
Yeah.
see it on a lot of budget knives. It's really
Yeah.
tough. And then 12C27, which you see on a lot of like outdoor stuff. Thanks so much for watching and listening, y'all. We ended up splitting this podcast into 2 episodes, so next week we continue our conversation with Cameron and John. See you there.